Hey everybody, welcome back. Well, let's see. We had last week talked about the expansion of Japan, the run up to April of '42.
With Doolittle's raid being our first poke in the eye.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what it was, right? It was literally, we're gonna get you. We're not going anywhere yet. We're gonna be that gnat in your face. But tonight we're gonna talk a little bit more. Look over at the European side.
Right, we kind of left them alone as we did our run up. Of course, then again, after the fall of France, nothing really happened until the invasion of Russia, which we did.
Right. Yeah.
And we went all the way to almost fall of Moscow.
Right.
So we kind of want to pick up that story. The winter goes, the German lines finally hold, and things just kind of settle down on the Eastern Front. The siege of Leningrad is still going on.
Yeah.
The Germans have to retreat. They're now like 100 some miles away from Moscow, but they're rethinking their strategy.
They're still in that mindset that, listen, we can still win this Eastern Front.
Yes, I mean, yes, we had a setback because of winter, but you talk about the 6 weeks fighting Yugoslavia and Greece. You talk about the weather. There's all sorts of great excuses. The fact that we didn't bring any coats, that was kind of dumb.
Yeah, well,
but anyway,
yeah.
So the Germans are coming up with this new plan. But in the meantime, Britain decides, hey, we like this poking people in the eye.
Right.
So we're going to give it our best shot. We're going to poke people at Dieppe, France.
There you go.
They're going to land about 5,000 men on the coast of France. And it's a freaking disaster. And it's basically Canadian disaster because that's who the British send.
Oh, wonderful.
Most of the British troops are in Egypt,
Right, yes,
India,
yes.
Burma.
True.
They're spread all over the world, so it ends up for the colonies. They're not colonies at this point, but the colonial
the
power,
Commonwealth. Yeah.
the Commonwealth troops have
Right.
to bear the brunt of the fighting in Europe, what little there is. Well, Dieppe's that. We learned several things from Dieppe. One, we can't land on a rocky beach.
Wow.
The
Really?
armor just didn't work well. Of course, running across the beach is bad. You needed a longer shingle, the space between definite land and water.
Okay.
So the beachy area.
Yeah.
Some beaches are thin, some are thicker. We needed a bigger area to help deploy a large invasion force, which comes in handy in a couple years. But the cost is paid by about 5,000 Canadians casualties, dead and wounded and captured.
Well, first off, where is Dieppe in
is,
terms of the coastline? It is on the northern side.
It is on the
yes?
northern side to the east of where we actually end up landing, closer up to near Calais.
Oh, okay. Okay, so right there, okay. Yep, close to the Belgian border than it would be the little hook.
I
that
hope I'm
goes out.
remembering that right, but
Yeah.
I know it's not on the western coast,
Got it.
and it's not in Normandy at all, so it has to be up near Calais. And of course,
Okay.
Calais is the White Cliffs.
Right.
They're on both sides of that channel, not
Right.
just of Dover.
Right.
So
yes,
you're going to get
true.
more rock.
Good,
And
good.
So we learned several things.
First off,
things like prep would be nice.
yeah, for sure.
Prep would be really good.
Yeah,
They didn't get a lot of that. It was a surprise. It wasn't meant to be an invasion of Europe.
it was.
It was meant to be like a raid.
Yeah.
You jump in there, you mess up some stuff, and you get out. And it'll make the Germans think about you.
Okay.
Well, because Stalin, since I don't know, since he woke up from his fugue state, has been screaming for a second front.
For some time.
For
yes.
some time. I mean,
Yes.
it doesn't take any time. He probably was screaming while he was in his fugue, for that matter.
Open the West. Open
Yes,
the
come on,
West.
you need to help us. We're doing all the fighting. Well, it's not wrong. He does most of the fighting.
He's got a good.
He's got a valid point.
Yes, he has a very
Very
valid point. But again, Western Europe is not ready. They're not prepared for anything that's going to happen like that.
Yeah, if the Russians were fighting across 60 miles of water, it would have been a different war.
Sure.
We had to get amphibious invasions are complicated and dangerous undertakings.
It is. I mean,
You can't just go, let's go invade France.
Yeah. Well, all right. Let's do it.
You got to have all your I's dotted, your T's crossed. Heck, your sevens have to have little bars on them. That's how bad it is. You just got to be ready.
You can't just have your ducks floating all over the place,
Yes.
literally.
And we just don't have the material.
Right.
They're looking at a desire to have 100 divisions before they invade Europe. And that's going to take a while for America to get that many able-bodied guys to Britain.
Well, again, it's not like it's modern times. You cannot just send a C-130 full of troops across the Atlantic. You know?
You don't have, a C-5 Galaxy unloading an entire tank.
Right.
It just doesn't, you don't have that kind of airlift capability. Even today, airlift, we couldn't airlift an invasion of this magnitude.
No.
So we have to find something else to do.
Sure.
So we invade. Well, that's not till October, is it?
Oh, yes. Operation Torch.
Back up. I'm trying to get ahead of myself. I want to invade something.
Yeah, we do. We love to do this invasion thing.
But you have the Germans. That's where we are. That's where I wanted to go.
Yes, the case of the Germans.
The case blue. They wanted, instead of going back towards Moscow,
Sure.
I guess they decided that maybe Moscow had been seriously reinforced, of course.
Of course,
over
it's the
winter.
capital
City. It's definitely the seat of the Communist Party.
We cannot
We
have
can't
that
lose
destroyed.
it. So Germany thinks maybe it would be a better idea to get the oil we need, because it's sometime in 1942, probably after Case Blue was really worked on. But all of a sudden, the Allies start bombing the Plesty oil fields in Romania, which is a significant portion of German oil supplies. It doesn't ever stop the oil supplies, but it slows them down.
Sure.
Last thing you need is a tank, getting ready for a tank invasion, and somebody says, you only get 2 gallons of gas. Oh, good, I can go a mile.
Yay!
Yay, that'll be fun. Set me up. So, Case Blue, the desire is to aim for the Volga River, and then south into the Caucasus, where the major oil fields of the Soviet Union are.
Sure.
Which will also cut off what's left of the Crimea. The siege of Sevastopol is still going on as well. Russians don't give up anything. After that first 6 to 8 weeks, they start really fighting. And you kind of see an idea why at the beginning of the movie, Enemy at the Gates.
Right.
Where they shoot you of your retreat.
Exactly. One has the ammunition, one has the weapon.
Right.
Yeah.
And, the third guy's just following because he didn't have either. And that's, you advance, or at least you hold the ground. You don't retreat because the NKVD's there to stick a dagger in your neck or shoot you.
Yeah.
But it costs. And which is, as long as the Germans are fighting their fight, which is outside cities, they're out in the neighbors, they're doing these slashing armored attacks, they are just still beating the Russians up. And when Case Blue kicks off in May of 42, boom, here it is again. They just blow right through the Soviet lines, just like it's not even there. And they surround, and they do the same thing they did on a smaller scale.
Sure.
And the Russians occasionally escape, because now they don't just sit there befuddled. They try to break out. And they already have plans in place which way they're going to break out.
Sure.
The Germans get past us, we're all going to head north. And everybody beyond this line heads south. Well, you cut off the pincers. You're together.
Yeah.
You can break out.
Right.
And retreating wasn't seen as quite the bad thing. Because as long as the fight wasn't near Moscow, there's really nothing. Stalingrad's a city, but it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
It's a big city for the area, but it's not a big city for Russia or Europe.
It's an appendage they're willing to let go of.
Yeah, and it's several hundred miles behind the front when it starts.
Right.
It quickly becomes the front line.
Yes, exactly.
And the one group, and I can't remember the general's name that led it. I mean, he's down in the Caucasus. He's going to get his oil. That's his job. Meanwhile, the 6th Army mainly hits Stalingrad. And in the stupidest move of the war.
Yes.
There's just nothing else qualifies. There's all sorts of weird fiascos, and I guess you could say bombing Pearl Harbor was a stupid move. But we talked about the reasons why it had to happen, at least from their opinion.
Right.
But for some reason, Hitler decided to channel his World War I persona. We are going to crush them by destroying their army in place and grinding them. When did the German army become a grinder? It was a slasher.
Right. They are a quick move. You
go around.
Yes.
I mean, if you look at any map of the war, if they would have gone 20 miles up and down river on the Volga and crossed and pincered that thing, Stalingrad wouldn't even be noticed in history. We never talk about it.
No, you wouldn't.
It's just a city. You go, hey, he named a city after himself.
Yeah,
what an egomaniac.
Yeah.
And then we'd move on with our lives. But because Hitler decided that that's where the Soviet troops were retreating to. That was kind of a collection point. It was like a magnet that was drawing these German forces in. And if
to their demise.
Well, they didn't know it at the time.
Sure.
They literally,
you're
I mean,
right.
the Battle of Stalingrad, they actually crushed all the way to the river. They broke the Soviet lines in half.
Right.
And started crushing, like the Red October tractor works and these other places. It was looking really, really bad. But it's city fighting. And city fighting eats armies.
Right, because you are getting into, again, the nitty-gritty of your cities that are, okay, you got a building here, and you've got a street there, and it's almost guerrilla attacking.
Well, it's
And
typically in military, you want at least 3-1, preferably 6-1 odds to attack.
Right.
But to clear these houses, you're literally attacking all the time.
Yes.
And you don't know if you got 6-1. You might have a company of Germans, maybe 120 guys.
Right.
And after you take the first building, now you got 100 guys. Because you've got wounded and dead and guys running back to get more ammo.
Right. And again,
but you just got a building. Now you got to get another one built.
Right. Right. You're going door to door. It's very similar to what we're dealing with right now, or I'm sorry, we did in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Well, especially Iraq. We're in the city fighting, yes.
Right. It was literally you go door to door and you figure out, well, okay, is this enemy or is this friend?
Well, but your company may be in charge of this block, and you're supposed to cross the street and take the next block.
Right.
The problem is, 6 blocks down, there's a guy with a machine gun who thinks it's funny to shoot at you. Well, because it's his job.
Yes.
Because he's like, look, stupid Germans.
Yeah, right.
And then suddenly, but you can't do anything about it. You can't pick your company up and move over there 6 blocks.
Because then you're going to leave everything
so
else
you got to
exposed.
wait for those guys to attack a machine gun.
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
Across an open street.
Right.
It's bloody. They bring up the armor, but the armor is very vulnerable to Molotov cocktails.
Yeah.
Originally developed by the Finnish, who thought it was funny.
Oh boy, history puns.
Yes, they thought it was funny to call them Molotov cocktails, but a guy with a Molotov cocktail setting in a third story window, your tank's on fire.
Yep.
And these tanks, even modern tanks, don't do well when they're caught on fire on the outside, because the heat builds up so rapidly.
Well, yeah.
And then, as you know, in your car, anything that heats up rapidly doesn't do well.
No.
The only thing you want to heat up rapidly is the heater when you get in the morning.
Yeah, right? And then
it's supposed to stop.
Yeah.
So, they start taking casualties from these tanks. And, of course, to be really effective in a city, a tank, the commander has to be up out of the turret looking around. Because otherwise you've just got these little visions. You can't see anything.
No.
So the commander's exposed. And snipers love those.
Yeah, they're going to
because like
anybody.
a little silhouette target. I mean, this is what you practice on.
Yes, exactly.
And bang, okay, now you need a new commander because he's flopping around in the middle of your turret because, he's just gotten a bullet through his chest. He's a little upset about it.
Yeah, I'm sure he is.
And the crew's upset because their commander's just got a bullet through his chest.
Right, so then, it's, again, the next guy who comes up and they're like, oh, great, now I have to do that.
And then they yell at the infantry because the infantry wasn't keeping up.
Right.
Well, the infantry wants to, they want the infantry to go take this building.
It's just a mess.
It's a mess that is nothing but casualties.
Right.
And the German army has so far successfully avoided, other than Crete with the airborne, they've successfully avoided bloody battles. All last year through Russia, they just ran around and ran through and over.
That's true.
They didn't fight these grim battles of attrition until Stalingrad. And it's literally like somebody went, and he went to World War I mode. And Stalin started seeing it as the same way. This is a test of wills. This is the end result of social Darwinism in its height.
Yeah.
We are going to prove we are the better, more evolved nation by crushing you in a battle of wills on the west bank of the Volga River.
Good luck.
And for 4 months, it's a grinder. And, there's counterattacks. But then this general we talked about before, Georgie there, Zhukov, he comes up with this plan. I don't want to do the frontal attack. That's dumb.
Right.
So let's do a German thing and attack from the flanks.
There you go.
Where these Italians and Romanians are hanging out. Not those Germans that really fight. We want these guys that don't know how.
There you go.
Who've never really fought. They've
Right.
just been following along the army.
And just picking up the little pieces.
Fighting little skirmishes against partisans and things,
Mhm.
and you know, that was what, January
Yeah.
of 1943, technically.
Right.
You know, that's a big deal. Stalingrad is just. We're going to talk more about this next time, but you know, I've kind of covered it. Let's go to Africa. Now
All
we
right,
can go to
yeah,
Africa.
now let's do
I
this.
feel better.
Let's get into the African campaign. Well, this is Operation Torch. This is the first movement of troops of the United States, specifically,
Yes.
into the European theater.
Yep. VETO.
Right. We are now entering the European theater of operations.
Mm-hmm.
And we started around that time of, where was it? Around November of 42 with, okay, sorry, take that back. We started around September, October to landing in Gibraltar, which is just north of Morocco.
Right there at the tip of Spain.
Correct. And then we start to kind of bounce down on into North Africa, specifically Morocco.
Because amphibious invasions, again, are very complicated things.
Correct.
And so you can't launch an invasion from Virginia,
No.
leave Norfolk, and sail all the way to Africa and just land on the beach.
Right.
You have to have some place to build up your supplies and then move in.
Exactly. You gotta understand what you're doing. You gotta know where your troop movements are going to be, and then supply your troops. But luckily, Casablanca is not a heavily fortified German city.
Well, no, it's defended by the French.
Yes.
The French, the French,
Yes.
as opposed to the Free French.
Right. Almost the Vichy French
Yes.
that are under the control of the Germans, with a little bit of help from the Germans in the city of Casablanca, but it's not like a full-blown German invasion.
It's not like they have like a division or anything.
No,
they just have
it's just
advisors, I guess,
yes,
would be the best way to
that's
put
a
it.
good way to put it. And so again, this is where the United States starts their beginnings, their operations here.
If you ever suffer through the Big Red One,
Right.
theoretically a good movie, but not so much.
Yeah.
If you like Lee Marvin, I guess it'll be okay.
Uh-huh.
It's got Luke Skywalker too.
There you go. Another big one, of course, the movie Casablanca.
Yes, set in that whole little spy's nest that Casablanca
Correct.
was.
Right. It gives you kind of an understanding of that Free French resistance, the ways of the German and French cooperation under the occupation of Morocco. But again, this was a good, should I say turning point? Would it be a good turning point? Let's just say it's a good
It's the start of a new chapter.
There you go.
Yeah,
It's
the
a
Americans
good-
are finally in the war in Europe.
We have waited 3-4 long years almost, and we are now
Well,
moving
definitely
in.
3.
Yeah,
Before we land, it's 3 full years
and
for the
we are
British.
we are finally helping out our allies in the in the Atlantic Ocean.
I mean, we've been helping on the ocean
Right,
with the destroyers and convoys and things, but
actually making our way into North Africa and helping to liberate much of North Africa from the German occupation is our, like we said, new chapter, new way of getting involved in the war. And so we quickly get into Morocco, and
Algeria.
we're
And the Free French, for the most part, surrender.
yeah.
I mean, it's just like we show up on the beach and they
They're
give
like,
up.
hey, yeah, sure, let's do it.
Because, well, they don't want to fight.
No,
They don't want to fight for Germany for sure.
heck no. And so
They definitely don't want to fight Americans.
no,
Despite all the all the arguments we have with the French, in a lot of ways we're like brothers. We agree on so much that we argue about everything else.
yep, yep.
And so these French people would remember the Lafayette Escadrille.
Oh, sure.
They would remember Blackjack Pershing landing
Of
and
course.
coming to help win the war.
Exactly.
So they're not going to have any awful things to say about Americans. If the Americans are here, the war must be going well. Because
Exactly,
we don't
yeah.
come in until we know we can win.
Right.
Well, at least that's their opinion, I'm
You
sure.
know, we're I hate to say it, we're kind of fair weather fighters in a way.
Well, we don't like to get in fights we can't win.
Well, no, who
That's-
would,
Yeah, exactly. Who would?
right? And so again, by November of 42 through December of 42 and into the beginnings of 43, the United States are kind of just rolling.
Well, we start heading east.
Yeah.
Towards, Egypt.
Yes.
We won't get there, but
No.
if you look at, say, July of 1942,
Mm-hmm.
if you just look at July, you just stop everything there. If we don't look at the Pacific too closely, because something big about to happen there.
Yeah.
But if you look, okay, let's back it up to June of 1942.
That's a good number.
June of 1942. The Japanese are still expanding, as far as we know. They haven't really stopped.
Yes.
They've had a little bit of a check in the Coral Sea, but we'll talk about that some other time. But the shipping tonnage that the Germans are sinking in 1942 in the Atlantic is ridiculous. At the rate they're going, a couple more years of war, assuming nothing changes, which it does.
Well, foreshadowing.
We'd be out of a navy. Well, not a navy, just no merchant marine.
Right.
You know, we have a navy, but who are we guarding?
Yeah.
And then Britain would starve.
Of course.
Probably by 1945, Britain would starve. And that's, you know, not an acceptable solution. But again, things will change pretty drastically. But, you know, in the Soviet Union, the German army is pushing through and just blowing through their lines just like they did last year.
Of course.
Well, if they do that, I mean, they almost lost Moscow last year, and they're starting from a much closer spot.
Exactly.
How will the Soviets ever be able to survive?
Right.
Which I think was another impetus for Torch.
Yes.
Try to at least put a little pressure on the Germans. I mean, it was a little, but
it does bring a few divisions over from, you know, I wouldn't say
the
from,
Africa Corps is
yes.
what, 2 or 3 divisions strong.
Yes.
Mostly Italians.
You got that one wonderful German general, Erwin Rommel. That is correct. Yeah. But
already has the name of the Desert Fox because of
Right.
his fights with the British.
Right. But again, this idea of we're slowly bringing on that second front.
Yeah, it's not
what Stalin wanted.
Stalin's not happy.
But you know what? Hey, you know what? What are you gonna do?
We can't invade France.
No.
Dieppe proved we weren't ready.
We do not have the technology.
We don't have the boats.
We don't have anything.
Those
that's really
Higgins boats have been invented now.
Yeah.
Down in a little shop in Louisiana.
Yeah. But again, do we have the numbers? Do we have the sheer numbers?
We don't have the divisions yet.
Well, think about this. We will talk again, of course, when we get to 44. But the whole amount of troops that it takes to invade anywhere.
Well, the boats.
I mean,
the number of ships alone is more than our whole navy was sitting in the English Channel.
Exactly. Well, think about even if we were to invade from the south, which
would have been harder, but
right.
Yes.
But even if we were to invade, if and when we do take on this southern flank in World War II, we realize quickly that this is not going to be a simple operation.
Yes, Winston Churchill's constant cry for attacking the soft underbelly.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure he knows what soft means.
No, I think he kind of understands.
Every country there is lined with mountains.
Right.
And full of Germans.
Yeah, because again, they've been fighting there since dang near 41.
Yep.
Yeah.
But if you look at the picture in June of 1942, it would be time for a Roosevelt fireside chat to make us feel better.
Exactly.
Because it looks bleak.
It does.
If you're reading the newspapers, the battles are going the wrong way.
Right.
In the Soviet Union. The Japanese are just stomping on people all over the place. And we duked them in the eye, but anybody that reads too deeply will realize that 5 bombers over Tokyo doesn't really change much.
Yeah, it's literally just a blip in the grand scheme of things.
Gave the construction workers an extra job for a while in Tokyo. But it's a bleak picture of the war in that time frame.
Yes.
And next time when we get together, it's going to start looking a little bit better.
Oh, for sure. We'll see some positives.
And maybe if I, like Hitler, can avoid being drawn into the Battle of Stalingrad.
Shoot. Yeah, hopefully. But regardless of it, we'll get there. We'll see some turning points.
Very good turning points that are, and they happen so quickly, really.
Right.
When you look at the grand scheme of the war, it's a space of 5 months that things change. So we will talk about that next time.
Take care.